All right, guys, so this is what we're going to remove, and I'm going to show you, and we're going to get into it. But at the end of the day, to prepare, you're going to need a body removal trim tool. You're going to need a 12 millimeter socket. So there's two right there. We'll get into how to remove in a moment. On this one, body removal, you're going to remove a 12 millimeter, and then you're going to remove the other 12 millimeters. And then under it is going to be this bracket after you remove the rack. And these are 10 millimeter, so Toyota loving to mix it up. And then lastly, you have these. So you're gonna remove all the 12 millimeter bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with their covers. It's gonna pop off. You're gonna go ahead and at that point remove the rack. And then you're gonna be left with this middle bracket, which has two 10 millimeter bolts that you're gonna have to remove, and then you'll be completely done. So let's get into that removal process now, shall we? All right, guys, so the first thing we're gonna wanna remove, front to rear, is this front cover to expose the bolts. So we're gonna get our trim removal tool, put it down right there on the rubber, lift up and pull this way. So that's one. Next thing we're gonna do is go to the back. By the way, so you can see, this was the part that was oriented this way, so it's got little tabs, so it's gotta come up and out. And we're gonna go ahead and go to the back. And same thing, trim removal tool. Go ahead and just slide it along this channel, pop up. There we go. And up and out. And that's that piece. And the final piece is this middle guy. And I will say Toyota did a good job. Everything's nice and tight. So when you look at this, looks like one nice solid piece. But there is actually on this side right here, there's a little ledge you can feel. So get your trim removal, slide it, it'll go in. There, see, popped out. Do the same thing on the other side. So take it, slide it along, and yep, there, and pull. Now that we have all that, we expose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And those are the bolts that we're gonna remove. Do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll pick up from there. Okay guys, so we got our 5 bolts installed. So 1, 2, 1 in the middle, 2 in the rear. This is where it's really kind of beneficial to have a friend. But to get this off, just pull straight up on either side. Have a friend help you if you can so that you don't scratch your roof. And then walk it to the back. And don't throw this away, because if you ever go to trade in your car or sell it, you're not gonna get your money back on your roof rack. That's just the cold hard fact of the matter. So save everything. Should be 5 bolts secured with Loctite, 12 millimeter, undo, 1, 2, 3, 4, get a friend, lift it straight up, walk it back, and you can see we expose the holes here. Do not throw anything away at this time, never. Okay, there's little rubber washers that we're going to reuse. So let's we're going to remove this with a friend, and we'll get back into putting in the actual install. All right, our roof rack is off. So there's going to be little rubber pads that go here. Leave them with the rack, we're not going to reuse them. But here's where the 2 bolts were. Here's where the 1 bolt was that goes in right here. And we now need to remove these as well, because we are definitely going to use them. And then there's the back 2. So it's a total of actually 7 bolts. 2 up front, 2 are in the rear, and those come undone. Then you do 1 in the center and you're left with this bracket. Remove these 2, and then we'll pick up from there. Okay guys, so the first thing that we're gonna do on this is get these. Now I will say Spider did an excellent job. Previously, and on all the other racks that I've ever installed, the spacers are like a little round thing about an inch. It just gives some separation between the roof and the actual rack. He went ahead and machined these, and these are new for this rack. So my Subaru rack before just had the little ones. It held plenty of weight. I mean, it's rated for, I think, like 600 pounds of static, 300 pounds dynamic. But these are a game changer. So they're nice platforms. He went and drilled everything through, and it is something that's brand new. So when we install these, the first thing we're going to want to do is, they're loose like this, and you can see on the inside right there, there's an edge. The other side, it doesn't have it. So this side goes up, okay? The very first thing we want to do before we even bolt anything, we want to go ahead and restore the water tightness. So I have this stuff called Lexus. There we go, Lexus. It's a clear elastic adhesive. You can use marine grade silicone, you know, any of that stuff. Obviously not wood glue. You don't want to use epoxy. You want to be able to remove these. But this is a little bit stronger than just straight marine grade silicone, but it still removes as well. And it does got a little bit of rubbery to it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm just going to drop, and again, we're only doing this for water tightness, okay? So I'm just going to drop a quick bead around this whole thing in kind of a figure 8 here. And I'm gonna line it up. So there you go, right? So we're gonna go ahead, take this again, this side with the lip goes up. I'm gonna center it over right here. I'm gonna leave that, and then I'm gonna go do the other 5, okay? So this is the first step. Don't bolt anything down. Leave this as is. There it is. There we go. There we go. Now it's nice and seated in there. Don't bolt anything down, but do go around, do the other 5. Again, this is called Lexus. You can get it at Lowe's, Home Depot. If you can't find that, get some like marine grade silicone sealant. Like Loctite makes some. There's all sorts. You can just go to like the bathroom section, get some clear. But we're gonna go ahead and do the others, and we'll pick up from there. All right, guys, so we got our 6 spacers in, we got our sealer, and like I said, don't get rid of this, we're not done. Next thing you're gonna do is we're gonna go to these feet. So these are what actually is gonna hold the rack to the spacer. So you're gonna need for each side 3, okay? And then you're going to need a total of 6 bolts. You're also gonna need this again, because yes, we sealed it there to the bottom, but it can still leak in, right? So we're gonna go ahead and get these ready. And they line up, you know, right in the hole that they're supposed to. So, important part, and the owner made sure to stress this to me. This part faces in, like towards the middle of the vehicle, okay? It doesn't face outwards, that would be goofy. So it faces in. And then what we're gonna wanna do right now is, if you take a look, we're gonna come back to this, and your holes are exposed. So I'm gonna drop actually a little over each hole. Here's what I'm not gonna do. And here's what you're not gonna do. Don't fill the whole damn thing up, okay? You still got to get this out. At some point, sell the car, trade the car, I don't know. But if you fill it up, you're gonna have a hell of a time. So we got this, and here's what else I'm gonna tell you as well. Finger tight, okay? Go around and just do finger tight for all of this if you can. Now, when we remove these from Toyota, the Toyota bolts, they had Loctite, and if you could see that, that's a piece of Loctite. So these may be a little bit difficult. So when I just said finger tight, there's a good chance I'm gonna need to employ a socket, and I'm not using an impact for this at all. I will share, based on this, we're looking at, let's see here, we are looking at, it ain't a 12 millimeter, so my guess is it's a 13, aka half inch. So 13 or half inch millimeter socket. We have that on there right now. Toyota is notorious for crossing their threads, so don't do that. And then we're just gonna get this down in there. Finger tight. Okay, got a bite now. There we go. Okay, so we got 2 bites on that. So again, finger tight, go all the way around, do the same thing that I just showed you. So remember, this goes on, pointing towards the inside, put a little bit of the sealant on it, and then bolt it down finger tight, okay? And we'll pick up from there. Okay guys, so we got everything mounted again, relatively loose here, so we can slide it back and forth. We're gonna need to do a little bit of adjustments because we're actually gonna install this with the feet and build the rack on. If you have 2 very strong people, 3, 4 people, you can actually go ahead and assemble the rack on the ground and lift it up and move, but it's just me and you, so that's not gonna work. Now in my case, I accidentally misplaced my hardware, which is not that big of a deal. In fact, I'm gonna show you guys a little secret that will be useful after your install in case you want to figure out where to get more of what I'm about to show you. So to install, you're gonna need the little bag that has the T-nuts, a washer, and these short little guys, okay? And then what we're gonna go ahead and do is you're just gonna take this, it slides right into the channel, and then we're gonna set this down and tighten it. Again, just finger tight because we're gonna need to do adjustments. We've got to go down the line here. So in terms of a little secret, in other words, the solution that I'm gonna use here. So, and by the way, once you get this in, you slide it in, T-nut, washer, bolt, hand tighten, leave it, move on down the line, and then we'll come back. This is like the last thing that we're gonna tighten. So, but if you're like me and you accidentally misplace some hardware, or later down the line, you're trying to figure out, hey, how do I secure things to the rail, right? There's channels that go along this. In fact, that's what you're sliding the T-nut into, but you're sliding it on the bottom. They obviously slide on the top, and you have here as well. So these racks are very versatile, and I love this feature. But the fun thing when I first got it was, where do I find more of the sliding T-nuts? Because they are difficult to locate. You really cannot find them typically at Lowe's or Home Depot. They're specialty, and if you order them, they're kind of expensive. So, one second. All right. The solution found at Lowe's that my buddy showed me, and this works for Prinsu, this works for Spider. I'm not sure of any others, but it's worth a shot. Quarter-inch by 20 carriage bolts, and the nice thing about these is, again, assuming you didn't lose your hardware like me, you're going to want to mount some things to this. Like, how do I mount? Maybe a case for your recovery gear. Traction boards are a big one. There's all sorts of things. I mean, that's the point of really having this roof rack. So if you want to do some makeshifts, get yourself some quarter inch. And then what happens is There we go. You slide these along the rail, and then you see how this has got that square nut? That square fits perfectly in these channels right here to go ahead and lock it in, so that when you're securing it with a nut or whatever else, it'll tighten down and not spin, but it just goes right in there. Now it is a tight fit, so I would recommend some sort of grease or something prior to, just a light coating. It'll help slide them up and down. But again, because I lost my mounting hardware, this is going to be my solution. So we have 6 of these in total, 2 per feet, 3 per side, so 2, 4, 6, total of 12. Okay, so 6 per side, total of 12. But we're gonna go ahead and clamp these down. And when I say clamp, for you guys at home, again, finger tight. I'm only gonna do finger tight as well, because we need to be able to potentially slide this and make adjustments once we get the rack actually on. Okay, so I'm gonna do that, and we're gonna go ahead and pick up. Next step is going to be putting on actually the extremely long slide plates, which is why we're doing this by putting the feet and building it while it's on the car instead of on the ground then shifting. So, all right, guys. Okay, guys, so we went ahead, got everything mounted. So going down the line, you can see. Ooh. Now what we're gonna do here is your side plate's gonna go right about here, which means it's going to limit your access to this. Nothing that you can't, reach around, but let's go ahead and just crank these down right now. We're gonna go to 35 foot-pounds. You do not want to over tighten these, because Toyota threads are prone to cross thread and stripping. So tighten it down. Again, 36 foot-pounds. If you don't have a torque wrench, just give it a good digga. But you don't want to sit there and just crank on it, right? So we're gonna go ahead, tighten up the rest of these on the feet. And then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the driver's side side rail, and they are extremely long. So that's where we're gonna pick up next. I would recommend, if you have somebody that you can borrow, now would be a good time to get on their agenda, because this thing is very, very long, and you don't want it to bang around and knock on the roof. In this case, I wrap my roof white. You probably can't tell in the video, but these things get really dirty, so I just wrap it white. Plus I live in Vegas, so heat dissipation, that just makes it a little better. But anyways, I'll tighten the rest of these, we'll pick up from there. All right, guys, so we are back on the ground, and it's time to do this piece. Now, if you're confused about which side goes to which, the dimples should point in towards the middle, or the shark fin, if you will. But an even easier way, look at the logo and just make sure that it's not backwards. So dimples go in. Dimples are a new feature that he added. I think they're pretty neat. Gives a little retro feel. So this is, again, this is a very long piece. So if you got a friend, now's a good time to employ them. In the meantime, these are the pieces you're gonna need. So you're gonna need one of the longer bolts. You're gonna need a washer. Obviously goes in like that. And then we're gonna go ahead and crank this down. Now, in this case, we are gonna go ahead and tighten it a bit, because we need to make sure that this being as long as it is, that it stays true. It doesn't get any waves because one's too long or short or whatever. So we are gonna crank that down, take a look at it, make sure that it's nice and straight. And then we're gonna tighten the mounting rails. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna start in the middle. So I'm gonna get this section and put it right up there, and then I'm gonna go to the front and then the back, and 2, 2, 2, tighten it down. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that on. We'll pick the video up from there once I get both sides mounted, and I can show you what I mean about wanting to make sure that this stays nice and true and not wavy, centered on the vehicle, etc. So we're gonna go ahead and do that next. But let's get this both sides up. As we got it up, so there's 1, 2, 3, we went ahead and cranked it down. Now, I picked mine up in Covina, so I drove this home and had to drape it over the seat. You can see I got a little warp. So what I'm gonna do, and what I would encourage you to do actually, is we have 8 of these, and these are your crossbars that go up there, and it's gonna go ahead and get everything true. That's not a manufacturer defect, that's a installer error, AKA me. So we're gonna go through, we have 8 of these, so we're gonna go with 7 slots plus 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then your very last one actually goes here, which is for your front plate, your wind fairing. That goes here, so we're gonna reserve it for that. But yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Basically what we haven't gone into already. So eliminate that. We already went into this slot. We already went into that slot. Just fill the rest. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay? All right. Your other option, if you want to, is if you have a moonroof, you can actually skip this one, move this one all the way up, and then install number 7 here, number 8 here for even more stability. If you have a light bar, you might actually want to utilize these because that's what you're gonna end up mounting to. All of these have these channels, so you'll be able to put your light bar right there. And I have the cutout. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and tighten all of those, and then come pick it back up, make sure this is true, make sure it's centered. I'll cover that with you, and then we will crank down these guys, the feets, them dudes right there. We're gonna go ahead and crank those down last. Okay guys, I started at the front, and that's really just so you know how you want to. You want to start at the front or the back. I started at the front. I am running a lot of lights, so I opted to reinforce these holes the same way as if those of you with the premium package that have the moonroof there are going to want to run this orientation, but I'll show you the difference. So notice I did not tighten down on these. I am now, because this is tight, so this was loose on both sides. Orientation is I put this one here, made sure it was slid all the way up, same on the other side. I used these bottom 2, and I used right between the 2 on these. And then if you take a look here, this is what you got. Now, if you have the moonroof, you're probably gonna wanna move this. And really, to eliminate it, your best bet is to move it to this right here. It's gonna be the most out of the way there. You can slide it back, but I don't see any benefit there. Or you might as well just eliminate it, but don't do that. Pull, if you have the moonroof, use these 2, or slide it all the way here, and it'll be nice and open. So I'm gonna crank down this front section, go and continue on down the line, again, front to back, and then we'll pick up. All right guys, so here we are. She's all bolted up, and we still do not have the bolts on the feet, so those are still loose. So now what we're gonna do is take a look down the line and make sure that this is nice and straight, nothing kind of poking out. If you left these loose, you can actually move this slightly like it just did. So looking down the line here, nice and straight. You're gonna wanna go ahead and check the back now to make sure that it's centered. So looking at the back, let's see here. That's pretty centered there. The centering is very important. If you get a lot of wind noise, double check your centering, because that wind fairing really depends. So looking at the front, looks right about there. Looks like the front needs to come over about a 1/4 of an inch this way. So we're gonna go ahead and do that, and then tighten down all the feet. And then the last thing we're gonna do is actually install the wind fairing, which is going to require us to remove this again. We didn't do the wind fairing because as soon as you put it on, then it makes this whole thing rigid, and it makes these cross rails a lot harder to install. So we went ahead and did this. Now we're gonna back it off, install the wind fairing, and good to go. Crank down the feet first. So these were already done. It's the other side, securing the rack, that we're gonna crank down. As you can see, there's a little bit of a gap there. So we're gonna crank that down and undo the other side, or sorry, undo the bar for the fairing, and the fairing will be next. I'm actually installing lights with mine, so you guys will get a glimpse at that. All right, guys, so the last part is the fairing, and what you're gonna wanna do is remove these two first to take this off, just the bar. We haven't attached this yet, according to the video. Obviously I have, but go ahead and remove these two, and that leaves you with this. Now, this part, I'm gonna have to talk you through. I can't exactly show it because it's hidden. So earlier I showed you kind of the T-nuts and the 1/4 inch carriage bolts, how they can slide in. This is all T-nuts. So you're gonna take your 10 and slide them into the channels there. And they are going to line up with these. So 1, 2, every one of these little ones has 1, 2. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and on the other side, 9 and 10. The easiest thing to do is to grab this and walk it, set it on the ground, put your wind fairing, that guy, next to it, and go ahead and just start sliding these in and line it up. So have your wind fairing here, line it up, and then transfer it over and bolt it in really quick. So it's the really short ones with the T-nuts. There's 10 of them. When you're done, you're then going to attach this bottom rubber piece. If you have any exposed little metal on the outside here, go ahead and just pull it with a pair of pliers, because that will rust. These are designed to be trim, but if you accidentally trim it on the metal part, exposing the metal, it'll rust. So if you have anything peeking, pull it, push it with your thumb all the way in. This part is extremely important. Couple of reasons. One is it obviously protects your roof. I mean, as you can see, I have really pressed it up in there. Two, if you can see as well, it actually provides a seal against the wind, so that it helps the wind from not going underneath this and causing a bunch of noise. It lets the wind fairing do its job to go up and over the cab. So that's the last thing. For the Landcruiser, I'm going to recommend that you use these bottom 2 bolts as I did. If you put it higher up, then this is going to shift a little higher up, and then wind can get up and underneath it. So use these other 2. But other than that, you're complete. I obviously run off-road lighting. These are Diode Dynamics. I borrowed these from one of my other builds, so these aren't the final. I am going amber though all the way around, since it's a desert truck. So, but there you go.
I've got one